Hi, I'm Art Gertel. I've been asked to consult my old trusty crystal ball, as opposed to my deck of tarot cards, to see if I can peer into the future of AMWA now that the organization has achieved the milestone of 80 years serving the medical writing community. Over the past 8 decades, the role and perceived value of what we've come to know as the medical writer has evolved. When AMWA was founded, members were physicians who wrote. The documents they generated were primarily manuscripts for publication, content for medical textbooks, and perhaps case studies. In 1940, there were only rudimentary documents created for submission to a very fledgling Food and Drug Administration. Indeed, regulations as we know them now had not even been formulated. As regulatory document requirements became more structured and went beyond case study descriptions, expertise had to be expanded from medical and scientific knowledge to an understanding of what would satisfy the requirements of regulators, requirements that were constantly evolving and becoming more stringent. At the same time, there was a move towards globalization and the need to serve at least two masters, FDA and EMA among them. As the process of document production became more complicated and time-consuming, a separate group of specialists evolved to serve the role of medical writer. While this role may not have been formally defined, and certainly not consistently so, this was the genesis of the profession we consider to be medical writing. When I started in this profession, the medical writer wrote the clinical study report by hand, tabulating data directly from paper case report forms. We performed our own statistical analyses on an adding machine, and I even remember using a right triangle to draw in the text table borders. So through the years, the role of medical writer was often determined by corporate or even team culture. Depending upon the experiences, inherent biases, and personalities of your team members, the medical writer was viewed as a secretary, editor, wordsmith, or, in the best of all possible worlds, a valuable interpreter of data and expert communicator. So, what about the next 80 years? Let's see what the crystal ball tells us. Well, the environment, scientifically, technologically, socially, and politically, will continue to evolve, although inexorably towards what end it's impossible to divine. The predictions that I've come up with apply to all the segments of the medical communications community: regulatory medical writers, information specialists, publication professionals, teaching faculty, and others who represent the broad spectrum under the medical writing umbrella. So let's look at technology. There will certainly be an increased use of artificial intelligence, automated templates, and electronic regulatory submissions to authorities. Data will become more available in real time as clinical studies leverage personal data interfaces, including wearables or even implantables. This may result in the medical writer accessing, aggregating, interpreting, and communicating trends and signals throughout the course of the study, rather than only at the point of last patient, last visit. The current coronavirus pandemic has accelerated the work from home model. Technology will continue to enhance this practice, removing many of the barriers and inconveniences we now face. It may become an opportunity for each of us to work from our home planets. What about the audience? Well, information may be provided to a broader range of consumers. No longer will results of studies be limited to regulators and the scientific and medical community. With greater access to posted documents on a variety of portals, the public will seek and access information that is important for informed decision-making. The patient will have a stronger voice in determining their treatment, and this will extend to end-of-life issues. Social media will amplify results and will spread misinterpretations and data of poor quality. Caveat emptor. Role expansion. Medical writers will assume a stronger role as guardians of best practices. Not only do regulations constantly evolve, but so do publication practices. The medical writer will have to maintain a high level of awareness and familiarity with current best practices, and will have to serve as a gatekeeper to best ensure that these are not violated. This will require the medical writer assume the role of educator, communicating the essence of these standards and the rationale for adhering to them. Once again, globalization. A single global regulator? Not likely, but a lot can happen in 80 years. The trend towards mutual recognition among regulators will continue with common guidance and templates. Yes, there will still be regional differences. However, the core dossier will serve all masters. Our professional associations like AMWA, MWA, and ISMAP have represented a balkanized community despite the significant overlap in membership profiles, educational program content, and common interests and goals. Recently, the three organizations mentioned have successfully collaborated to develop joint position statements addressing systemic and institutional deficiencies. I trust that this will continue and hope that at some point we will realize that we have a stronger voice through alliances, not just within the medical writing community, but with associated institutions in academia, medical and scientific journals, among regulators and others. I've long been an advocate of the Intergalactic Medical Writers Association, and perhaps one day it will emerge. Other musings. Pressure to release data in real time for publication, which technology allows us to do, particularly given the increase in the use of patient-reported outcomes platforms that gather data in real time and adapt to prior responses, will allow us to release raw data that may only have been minimally vetted. Society will determine that resources are insufficient to provide all services to all patients. This rationing of healthcare may seem draconian. However, in a world of limited resources, algorithms will be applied to human healthcare. This will result in a greater need for medical communicators to develop materials to educate the public, including lawmakers, about the rationale for allocation decisions. Over the years, there has been a movement to create licensure for the medical writing profession. Whether this is necessary or warranted remains an issue of contention. And my crystal ball is starting to cloud up. Oh well, I guess the future will reveal itself over time. As one of my heroes, that great sage Yogi Berra, said, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. By the way, I do read tarot cards, but they didn't help me with this exercise. Thank you.